Are Blackhawks even a bird? Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche pregame show live from the Toyota Lounge, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. We've got J. Mike and Rudo coming to you as the Avs are taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. The Avs are on home ice. J. Mike, I'll put it to you straight. Is this a must-win game for Colorado?
Must-win's probably a bit dramatic. That might be hyperbole if we're being
probably
100% correct, but I do think there's pressure to win, right? You want to win on home ice. You dropped a frustrating one the other night. And while this loss doesn't necessarily kill you, you just don't want it to be a death by 1,000 paper cuts scenario, right? Like all of a sudden you start losing 3-4 out of these winnable games. The conversation changes, and we all talked about it a million times, but you've got a tough stretch of schedule coming up, a lot of important divisional games. It would be nice to stack some points here against a team that, frankly, you're significantly better than, despite them being kind of a pain in your rear every time you seem to match up.
Yeah, Blackhawks always seem to find a way to play the Avs close, but honestly, and this is for no particular reason, I just have good vibes today. I feel like the Avs are going to bop today. Just the vibe I've got. I hope I'm right, but we'll see. Never trust your gut if you're me, at very least. Before we dive into the game, let's check out the Common Spirit injury report. There was no morning skate for the Avs today, so we don't have any official updates. Logan O'Connor, obviously the situation remains the same. You know about that. But Kivi Ranta, after leaving the game early the other day, is still expected to be out day to day at this point. I imagine we'll find out more about him either after the game or tomorrow at practice or whatever it might be. But does sound like don't expect him to play in this one at very least.
He got rocked, man. So yeah. If it ends up being a short missed stint, I think that's a win considering how it kind of looked in the moment. So I'm hopeful he's okay. Always a bummer to see guys go down, especially right after a break, but the bronze medal probably helps a little bit, makes you feel a little bit better.
Yeah. I can spend a few days in bed recovering with my bronze medal. It's fine. I feel okay. Interestingly, though, there's a non-zero possibility that Kivi gets healthy and the Avs have traded for someone that has stolen his spot in the lineup. I do think that is something to keep an eye on for Colorado, with the deadline being, 7 days away now, so maybe Kivi tries to get back a little bit quicker to hold his spot down. I don't know. I'm just speculating at that point. Either way, experience the difference compassion makes. Find a Common Spirit location near you and discover a new standard of health and healing by visiting mountain.commonspirit.org. Common Spirit Health is the official healthcare partner of the Denver Broncos. Moving on from the injuries and getting into the actual game expected from today. If my good vibes are going to hold true, I think it needs to come from the Avs' top six. And it's really easy to sit here and say Marty Necas has been amazing since coming back from the break. I know small sample size, only 2 games, but been great in both games. Even with my own personal qualms with a Nathan MacKinnon, he put up a multi-point game in the last one. So your superstars are getting it done. How do you get more out of the rest of that top six, J. Mike?
You just need more point production. I mean, 2 straight multi-point games out of Marty. That's awesome. Olympic Marty Necas seems to have carried over.
Yep.
Hopefully he's able to sustain it. We've talked about that before, but he's been great. MacKinnon, not sure the legs were there in the third period, which is understandable the other night, but I felt like he was active and driving a lot early on in that game. Obviously set up Marty for one of his goals. But you need more, productions out of guys not named Brock Nelson, right? Like Landeskog production, Nichushkin especially. I know he had a point the other night, but that's
That
a
was
guy I'd love
secondary
to see behind the
assist.
back
Like,
of the net.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just feels like those guys have been a little quiet for my liking. You've been kind of reliant on Brock Nelson and then, even some of those guys in the third and fourth line to pick up some of your point production. So I think if they could get an uptick in scoring here, I know that's simple, but I think it would be huge for this team.
I mean, it's a big ask, right? Especially when you look at Nichushkin, because he's not in that Landeskog or Lehkonen or even Nelson position. And frankly, McKinnon and Necas too. All of those guys were at the Olympics. All of those guys are running on shortened legs. And I know they had a day off yesterday, and that should help. But in the middle of a 5-7 stretch, which we'll get to in a little bit too, the Olympic guys are expected to have less gas in the tank, and Nichushkin should have all the gas. He's the guy that needs to be pushing the play for them. And this production problem is one that, frankly, was already starting to crop up for Nichushkin before the Olympic break. So I do think it's him specifically that you really would like to see a little bit of that upturn in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I talked about this. Maybe it wasn't the last pod. It might have been the one before. I've worked like 15 straight days between CSU and the Avs, so my brain is blending together at the moment. But
Yeah.
I feel like he is someone you need to see more consistency from, because on paper, he's probably been the sixth best guy out of those top six.
Yep.
I think ideally you want him more in that 3-4 range. So he's got to get it going here for the postseason. Fortunately, and this has been pointed out basically anytime I've ever been critical of Val, and I want to make clear I'm a big fan of his game. Like I think his ceiling is higher. It's why I'm expecting more. But he has been someone historically, when the lights get bright, when the games matter more, we get big game Val Nichushkin. So I'm not worried about him in the big picture sense, but I just think it would be huge. Shout out to Benny in the Toyota chat. Looks like we got a super chat here. He says, "Hey, J-Mike, you going to be on the post-game pod?" I will be on the post-game pod. I'm looking forward to it. Much love for the sport, guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's going to be a lot of Avs conversations these next couple of weeks. We've got a ton of games, so it's going to be fun.
Busy season for the Avs, no doubt. And from the arena, it is officially Mackenzie Blackwood in the starter's crease tonight. So going back to him, I think that makes sense. Really played very, very well against Minnesota. Just a victim of circumstance in that game for the most part.
Yeah, he deserved to win. I mean, he was a big part of what gave the Avs a chance the other night. Obviously, they got a lot of shots on net, but when it is one of those nights where it kind of feels like you're getting goalied, it's pretty relieving to look back and have a guy like Blackwood, who is just not going to let things compound on you and at least give you a shot, right? He gives you a shot every single night.
I mean, honestly, I think he gave him more than a shot. Excluding the context of the game, you get that performance out of Blackwood with a rested Avs team in front of him. They smoke most teams, to be honest. But that's a different game. In today's game, I think you can spring off of that Minnesota conversation. The Avs ended up, 47 shots on goal total or something like that?
Roughly, give or take, yeah.
Yeah, a few either way. How do you narrow that down? And I know this is a weird conversation because we've spent so much of this season looking at, man, I really hate it when the Avs aren't shooting the puck and we want them to shoot the puck more. But then you look at a game like that Minnesota one, and where's that balance point between quantity and quality?
Oh, it's such a tough, because I think it's one of those that's kind of situational, and that's the toughest thing to gauge, right? Like sometimes you're just letting it rip and everything's falling, but sometimes even when you're setting it up, perfect pass here, you're going up against a great goaltender who's hot, and then it kind of becomes a product to me of you just kind of got to get an ugly bounce or something, right? So it kind of feels like basketball to me, where it's like you need to kind of feel the vibe right now. Like, are we able to get the production? Yes, it's a good look, but in this context, is it a good look? And it's tough to gauge game to game, but the last game was kind of an example of they put a large volume on, but I don't know how many of them actually gave like a realistic chance to score. I didn't hate the mentality. Maybe you get a ricochet or something like that, but I think you can feel it early.
Is that, for going basketball mentality, did you have to just shoot your way through it? Is that the easiest way forward?
I think if you ask different coaches, they'll tell you different things because
Sure.
it's hard to fault a player if it's open, if it's in rhythm. You might not get a better shot than that. That said, sometimes you get to the foul line or sometimes you get to the layup because you're willing to put your head down and play, gritty and embrace contact. I think you need some of that, and that's maybe something the Avs can do at times, get a little cutesy, trying to, fire off some of these wristers from like too far out. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think you just got to muck it up, get a bunch of traffic in front and hope you can, cause a little bit of chaos.
Certainly when you're talking about some of the guys we mentioned earlier, the Nichushkins, the Landeskog's, that's what they should be good at, right? They don't need to score the pretty goals. If it goes in because they jammed one through a pad, they count the same. So I agree with that take. A conversation I hate that we continue to have, but nowhere near as much as the power play or something like that. Can you do something to really get the Avs top pairing going? And I know Makar has looked all right offensively and he's played reasonably well with the puck, even if we still have issues with the way he's shooting. But we're looking at an Avs top pairing that coming back from the Olympics just hasn't seemed to find their footing, maybe the way the McKinnons and Necases have.
The tough thing is I'd like to attribute it to, well, you don't have the same cohesion, right? Because you haven't played together as a team. You played together a ton for Canada, so it's not like you two haven't been around each other. It's been weird. I'm almost willing to chalk it up to fatigue. Just this whole process of, playing in the gold medal game and then a back-to-back. I'm optimistic that the play is going to trend the right direction this game, and then I think we really start to see them look like themselves next week. That said, I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed that it's been basically 2 straight games of them just not looking like their typical selves, especially kind of on the defensive side.
Yeah. You need more from both of them, frankly, but especially Devon Toews on the defensive side of the puck.
And you know what he's capable of. So, I mean, it's very possible that it's just fatigue. It could just be a fluky rough stretch that's going to happen. They are human, but I am a little bit worried. I don't know, just given how everything played out in that gold medal game. Like, I don't want to speculate too much because I don't think that's necessarily fair to him. But are you in your head right now? Like, is it a physical hangover? Is it a mental hangover? Just what is it that's going to kind of snap you back into that typical sicko mode we see out of him? Because he's normally just so spot on with the little details, right? And that's where it's felt a little bit different.
Not to speculate on where he's at, but what we do know is he just had another kid. Probably not sleeping that well at home, even when he gets back from the Olympics.
I completely forgot about that.
So could be some off-ice factors there affecting Devon Toews a little bit. It definitely a fair take. With that being said, on paper, the Chicago Blackhawks should be a get-right team. We can pull up the team cards and show you they're great on the penalty kill, so not expecting the Avs power play to do a whole lot against this team. But at 5-on-5, this is a team that the Avs should really just be swallowing whole. Chicago is not particularly effective at playing team hockey at 5-on-5, and the Avs are the best team in the league at that. Their chart has all the ones on it. You know what it looks like. You don't even really need to see it. But all of these teams that, everyone gives the Avs the best game. These weak teams always seem to play the Avs well. At some point, that dam has to break, and the Avs just need to be the better team. Right, J-Mike?
They're 1-7 over their last 8. I know they're kind of a spunky team that can be frisky, but the simple matter is you are so much better than this team. And at home, like this really shouldn't be a game if we're being real. I always hate using commentary like that because I want to be respectful. It's an NHL team. They're division rival. They're pros. But this is a team that's a long ways away from being in the conversation of contention. Like even Utah, I feel like, who you and I feel like are a fun team, they're a significant gap ahead of Chicago in terms of like their competitive standpoint right now. So it's a game you should win, no doubt.
Would love to see the Avs lock in on that and take care of business. You can start that by looking at your discipline. And look, first in line, I thought the reffing in the Minnesota game was terrible. I don't know what you do about the Makar penalty. That one's straight up made up. But you look at some of the other penalties in that game. The Landeskog penalty early. Is that a pretty weak slash? Yeah, for sure. You look at some of the other trips in that game. Are those pretty weak calls? Yes. But you are NHL hockey players. You have to be able to read a game as it's happening. You take one or two calls that come cheap, fine. But you have to put the brakes on. You have to understand the way the game is getting called, and you have to be able to reduce those penalties you're taking going forward. Nobody's perfect, but we are 2 games through the break. You took 6 penalties in both of them. I'm not saying it's easy, especially if you're getting an inconsistent reffing game, but they have to be able to do something to reduce that, right?
You've just got to have better discipline. And yes, some of those are ticky-tacky, but it is what it is. You're going to get some of those, even like the Nichushkin call that he got. He did kind of throw an elbow there. So, yes, I thought it was a little ticky-tacky, but he did technically do it. And then, you look at the Burns penalty. There's nothing you can complain to the officials
just can't
about
have that one. Yeah.
It's a product of desperation, like we talked about the other night, but it's an instance that you can't have from your most experienced players. And when I think about some of these penalty issues, I think about how the Avs have looked kind of a half step slow at times in the neutral zone, just getting to some of these pucks. Now you're in a position where you might be reaching a little bit more, and now you're taking a tripping penalty. So I think if they can just lock in on a couple of those key areas, you're likely taking less penalties. So it kind of just feels like a matter of being better composed across the board. But certainly I think you're spot on in your assessment of you've got to read the room. If they're calling every little thing, then don't give them that little extra shot.
I don't know if I call this a touchy subject, but maybe a frustrating one for sports fans, and certainly for a person like myself. I was always raised in sports to, I don't know if I would call it do the honorable thing or whatever, what have you. Should the Avs try to sell more calls?
This is like the ultimate debate with me internally in so many different areas of sports, right? Like whether it's selling to get penalty calls, whether it's intentionally tanking to better draft position. The strategic, the logic is sound because it gives you a competitive advantage because teams and players clearly benefit from it. From a principle of rooting for honest competition and the thrill of sports, I hate everything about it. So
yeah, same.
I think I'd rather lose honorably than win dishonorably. But that said, if you're skating around with the cup come June and you had to flop a couple times to do it, I don't think anybody's thinking twice about it.
Yeah, the cup is the cup. No matter how you get it.
What do you think? Do you think they should sell more?
I think the league should call embellishment more, and then this wouldn't be a debate. If the league called it right, if they called it the way they should, players would stop flopping because you'd put your team in a negative position. But they almost never call embellishment as its own penalty. They call it sometimes as a make-up, even-up call. Very, very rarely do we see an embellishment call put a team on a PK. So there's really very little to lose right now if you're an NHL player that's flopping. This is a byproduct of what the league has set the rules as. Every professional top league level athlete is going to do anything they can within the rules to get an advantage. If you are not punishing them for breaking the rules or whatever you want to call it, they're going to do it. So as much as I might not like it personally, I don't know what else you would expect given the compete level of these guys.
I do think you need better enforcement at the league level because I'll give the officials the benefit of the doubt with game speed. Sometimes it's so blatantly obvious. It's how did you miss that? But generally speaking, I think it's a really tough sport to officiate. I'm with you.
It's not hard to go back and give them a $20,000 fine, though.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to flap the head back if it's going to cost me $20K.
I'm saying. Move on back into the Avs. We talked about the top-end guys, and yes, of course, you need to win with your best players. But you mentioned it, J-Mike, busy part of the schedule for the Colorado Avalanche. Which guys are you looking at to step up and eat a few more minutes, knowing that this is a 5-7? You play every other day for basically the rest of the year. Who is in the chamber to maybe play that extra minute or two to rest a McKinnon if you need it?
I think that's kind of where you look at the Gavin Brindley types,
True.
Just that third line. Like, I think ideally it'd be players like Ross Colton, but the production hasn't been there pretty consistently now, so that's tough. But those are kind of the guys I look to who could potentially, just, can you steal me 45 seconds here or there?
Yep, it doesn't have to be a ton, right? It just 1 or 2 extra shifts a night is enough to... You're not worried about immediate fatigue, right? In a game, you'll play Nathan McKinnon as much as you need to, but you're worried about the long-term effect. If you're playing Nathan McKinnon 2 extra minutes for 25 straight games, where are his legs at come playoff time when things actually matter?
Just avoiding that unnecessary tread on the tires. And that's where you even come back to what you talked about at the beginning, or implied, I guess, with, is this a must-win game? Not in the sense of you're not going to make the playoffs if you lose it or something like that, but
right.
Can we avoid having to pay the tax for today's actions down the line? And that's kind of where I'm at with some of these games. And even like getting out to an early lead, like not having to play from behind, I feel like is so big in a game like this. Like, this is a team, they've lost 7 out of 8. If you go up a couple of goals, I don't think there's going to be that big of a third period push. That said, you go down 2-0, now you got a young team playing with confidence.
Yep. You burn those legs out quick playing from behind, man. It's really hard. And when you look at opportunistically, Minnesota lost to Utah the other night, so it's not like they are directly breathing down your necks, even though you lost to them. Dallas plays Nashville today. You probably expect Dallas to win that game. Colorado, it shouldn't be that hard for them to maintain their standings position through these games that aren't direct competition with Minnesota and Dallas. Obviously, those games are going to matter more, and it's going to shape the way the standings play out. But in these in-between sections, the onus is on Colorado to hold their position.
You take 4 out of the first possible 6 points. You did what you were objectively supposed to. Yes, it would have been nice to beat Minnesota. That would have been great. It would have gave you that much more breathing room, but it was the second night of a back-to-back coming out of the Olympic break where you had 4 guys playing in the gold medal game. Like, it wasn't a shocking scenario that they lost the other night. It was just really freaking annoying because of how the game played out. But it is what it is. I've got no more whining in me left about the officiating the other night. I don't even want to think about that game for the rest of the season.
So you have the exhaustion factor, and then you have the mental exhaustion factor too, especially when you look at some guys down the lineup, Victor Olofsson, Ross Colton. Trade deadline is looming, and those guys are the names that are in rumors that are, depending on who you ask, might be on the block. Is there extra pressure there, or is that incentive for them to play even better?
I mean, to an extent, but it's such a business that, like, if you all of a sudden rip off a couple of goals, that just might make it that much easier to trade you. So
it's true.
It probably matters on what you're thinking. But I mean, I think if you're an NHL player, you're always auditioning, right? Whether it be for your own playing time or because a GM for someone else might be thinking, hey, give me some of that. So internally, you should always have some drive there to prove yourself, especially when you are, you're not a Nathan McKinnon. You're not going to get 28 minutes a night, or that's probably too many, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. 25 maybe is more.
Yeah. If he's playing 28, something has probably not gone great for the team, but
we must have had a wild overtime to get to that number.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I always never know how to feel about those guys because I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not going to pretend like I know what those pressures are like, but I would not feel comfortable if every day I was waking up and being like, I don't know if I'm going to be playing for this team tomorrow.
I got to imagine it's one of the toughest things you can experience just from a human level of, am I going to be looking for a new place to live? Like, just think about how simply how frustrating and annoying the process of having to move is. And I know these guys have got big money. You're probably paying movers. It's not like they're thinking I got to box everything up myself, but it's a hassle. And it's one of those things that keeps you up at night. And it's tough to perform your best when you're constantly, doubting, am I stable, not just in my position of employment, but like in my status of life as a whole right now. It's got to be really hard.
It certainly takes me too long to adapt after a move. I don't feel comfortable in a new place for at least like 6 months. So I'd power to the guys that can do that and flop it over in a day. We are
Some
winding
people
down
are more
here.
adventurous than us, Rudo. It is what it is.
Absolutely not me. Couldn't be me IRL. Winding down the show here. Let's bust out the crystal ball. Look into the future. Give me a score. Give me a name, J. Mike. What's going to happen in this game?
The pessimist in me just feels like Chicago are pests and they're going to linger. But I want to lean into your optimism. I'm feeling good. So I'm going to say they bop them. Let's go 5-1 Avs. Give me a multi-goal game for Nathan MacKinnon. I'm gonna try and get bold with it.
I'm in. Get Nathan MacKinnon to 43. Why not go full hat trick on that? I like your leaning in, even if you are a pessimist. I swear, had nothing to do with your score. My score was 6-1. That's what I was thinking from the beginning. Beat you by 1 goal. And then I'm taking Arturi Lehkonen to be that extra top 6 guy that steps up and puts one in the back of the net for the Avs. Just a guy who too consistently does the right things to be held off the scoreboard forever. So I'm taking Lecky on that front. He's also part of my pregame picks, which are presented by Bet365, where, of course, things are never ordinary. The Lecky goal, I believe, was plus 225. Yeah, I got that right. Multi-point night for McCarr at plus 182. And then, since I'm feeling good, I took the Avs to cover 3.5, which is a crazy bet, but you can get plus 290 on that if you want to go in on that front. Plenty of other bets to make on Bet365 as well. Sometimes with these games, you don't get the best odds. You to go with the emotional hedge. That way, either the Avs win or you win money. Always a great option with Bet365. Whatever you do with Bet365, make sure you're 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Before we get out of here, J-Mike, I do want to be balanced. Sometimes I feel like we can get a little bit too negative on our shows. And for a guy over these last 2 games that didn't go to the Olympics, I just wanted to shout out Josh Manson on the defensive side of the puck. I think he has been excellent for the Avs coming back through these games. We've seen Brent Burns maybe struggle next to him, and Manson has picked up a lot of that slack for the Avs. Points in both games so far back, and also stalwart defensively.
I've been pretty impressed with his consistency this year. He's always been a guy who could make the loud play for you, that could have the big game, but I feel like he's kind of avoided some of those gambles that have traditionally cost him, where it was a little bit of a roller coaster. It's just felt a little bit more steady of an experience to me.
Yeah, I would agree. Maybe no choice but to be more steady with Burns struggling on the defensive side of the puck. Maybe he feels like he can't take as many risks, but you're starting to see that defense build. I know we asked more out of the top pairing, but when you have the consistency out of Manson, you've liked Brett Kulak for 2 games. Malinsky is who he is. You know pretty reliably what he's going to give you. You're starting to see, I don't know if the defense solidifying is the right way to put it, but a team that is not going to be enjoyable to play against come playoff time with that defense.
That's a pretty solid top 6 you got there with your demon. So it's so huge for this team when he can be steady, because you know that he's going to be able to contribute offensively. You know he's going to bring the physicality. He's always kind of brought that edge to the game. I've just been impressed with his ability to kind of lock in and refine some of the little things.
Lastly, look, I know the Canadian guys on the Avs would rather have a gold medal, but is it not better to have a silver medal than no medal like Connor Bedard?
I would think so.
So,
I mean, it's still like, it's so funny in these situations, and I would encourage the Canadian hockey team to Google Dwayne Wade, who talked about when the U.S. men's basketball team got bronze, I think it was, in Athens in 2004. It was considered this big letdown, right? You didn't achieve what you were supposed to. And because of that, you couldn't put your own ego aside and appreciate, in the grand scheme of things, what a bronze medal or a silver medal in the Olympics means. And yes, you wanted to win that one. It's a heartbreaker, but it's a freaking silver medal in the Olympics. Like, that's a once-in-a-lifetime type deal.
Yep. So go rub that silver medal in Bedard's face and go win this game. We're going to wrap up the pregame here. We appreciate everyone hanging out. Micah coming on for the watch along, and then J Mike and I will break it all down postgame for you after. So keep it here on the DNVR YouTube channel. This has been the DNVR Avalanche pregame show, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
We all silly like the mayor.